This video is for topic 2 of Unit 1, Terrestrial Biomes. Biome is a large region of the Earth that's characterized by distinct climate conditions. Biomes also tend to have several key species, mostly plant species. These species share similar adaptations that are suited for that specific biome. For example, deserts tend to have succulent plants that have adapted to dry climate conditions. Climatogram gives us a lot of information about the biomes. It shows the average climate conditions by month, and it usually spans a year. It's a hybrid line and bar graph, and if we look at the key that's popping up, precipitation is often the bar graph, and the line graph is often temperature. It doesn't have to be, so I encourage you to closely look at any axes on the graph. Precipitation is often read to the left and temperature off to the right, and that's the most common way to see it, but I have seen other versions. So let's take a look at these 9 terrestrial biomes. The tundra is the first one that we're going to look at. It's found in Alaska and Russia and Canada, Sweden, Finland, and Greenland. It's described as short and soggy summers and long, cold, and dark winters. It's a fragile biome affected by climate change and oil and gas pipelines. We find caribou and Arctic fox there, and the key features are poorly developed soils and permafrost, that's subsoil that's permanently frozen. It's found at high latitudes or high altitudes, and it has that short growing season, which means that it leads to a low net primary productivity. Remember, that's a measure of our amount of green stuff, and low net primary productivity means we're not going to have a lot of producers in that area. In fact, its dominant plants are ground-hugging plants like mosses and lichens and sedges. Let's take a look at the boreal forest, or also called the Taiga. It's found in Maine and Minnesota, in Russia and Canada. Long, cold winters, short, mild summers with moderate precipitation. Our major plants are needle-leaf coniferous trees. Sometimes there's a deciduous tree mixed in there, and we have the wolf and the otter and the wolverine and the grizzly bear. It's found, like I said, in Maine and Minnesota and Canada. And important facts is that it's nutrient poor and acidic soils because of the falling needles. It's only in the northern hemisphere. It has a short growing season and moderate productivity. Humans impacted by mining, oil extraction, logging, and hydroelectric development. Temperate rainforest, I like to orient myself. It's in Washington, Oregon, also in Australia and Tasmania. Our major plant types are Douglas fir, Sitka spruce. We like to think of the redwoods being there. Lots of mosses and ferns. And that's where we'll find the cougar and the elk and porcupines and tree frogs. It's found in that Pacific Northwest. And very important, it's that it's a coastal biome. It can only be a coastal biome. It has rocky, acidic soils, and the oceans moderate those temperatures and provide water vapor for that precipitation. It has high net primary productivity, very big trees if we think of those redwoods, and rapid plant growth equals to low soil nutrient levels. Sort of any of our rainforests has that. All the nutrients are up in the actual living plant matter. Humans impacted by logging, mills, and then coastal fisheries, recreation, and tourism. Temperate seasonal deciduous forest. I hope you're familiar with this one because this is the one that we live in. So locations are New Jersey and Indiana, Vermont, China, Germany, France. Major plants are the broadleaf deciduous trees, oak, maple, hickory, trees that lose their leaves. That's what a deciduous tree is. Our animals, squirrels, chipmunks, white-tailed deer, black bear are all common organisms for us. Locations, New England. And then important facts. So there's warmer temperatures, so there's rapid decomposition, so there's high soil nutrient levels because of that decomposition. We have high net primary productivity because we have a lot of things growing there. It's a prime area for agricultural development. The human impact, much land is used for agriculture, development, and industry. Next, we have that woodland shrubland. It's found in Southern California, or Australia, Spain, or Chile. Hot, dry summers and cool, moist winters. Our major plants are woody evergreen shrubs with leathery leaves that grow in summer and die in winter. And this is where we find the bobcat and the jackal, the cactus wren, and the roadrunner. It's also called a Mediterranean climate, or chaparral, we see, and there's periodic wildfires there. If we think about important facts, the net primary productivity is limited by summer high temperatures and low precipitation, so we don't grow a whole lot in the summer. And the species have evolved around regular wildfire cycles. Human impact includes human-ignited wildfires and vineyards. Temperate grassland is our next one. And so this is located in South Dakota, Oklahoma, Kansas, the Ukraine. Warm, hot summers, cold winters, moderate seasonal precipitation. Our dominant plants are lush, perennial, short and tall grasses and herbs, and many are resistant to drought and fire. Animals that live there, the prairie dog, the badger, the mink. We find it in Oklahoma and Kansas. And important facts, the net primary productivity is limited by temperature and precipitation. And species evolved around regular wildfire cycles, which is why there are so few trees. So that dry, windy conditions help us have less trees. It's very fertile soil, and it's also called pampas or prairies or steppes. And our human impact is that there's agriculture, grazing, urbanization, habitat fragmentation, and hunting and poaching that goes on there. Tropical rainforest. Some of our locations are Brazil, Congo, Indonesia, Bolivia. It's hot and wet year-round. Major plant type is broadleaf evergreen trees. So we think of evergreen as pine trees. It not just means that they're green all the time. Large woody vines and climbing plants, orchids and bromeliads. Animals that live there, sloth, cobra, chimp, toucan. Very rapid plant growth equals very low soil nutrient levels. Really important. The rainforest has very, very poor, thin, nutrient-poor soils. There's a rapid decomposition and quick uptake of nutrients. It has the most biodiversity, and it's the most productive land biome. The human impact that we see there is deforestation causes a loss of habitat, a loss of biodiversity, soil erosion. It has a big impact on climate change because we're not taking in all that carbon dioxide, and loss of potential medicines. Then we have the tropical seasonal forest, tropical dry forest, or the savanna. So I like to think of Kenya and Tanzania and parts of India. Warm temperatures, seasonal rainfall. We have a lot of tall perennial grasses, some that are drought tolerant and fire resistant. And these are where our zebra and elephant and the rhino all live. An example is the Serengeti. So important facts, there's very distinct wet and dry seasons. There's a high decomposition rate, which means there's fertile soil and used for agriculture. The net primary productivity is limited by precipitation, and grazing and regular wildfires keep large woody plants at bay. The fertile soil is compacted by grazing animals, and large herds of migrating animals follow seasonal precipitation. The human impact in this area is conversion to land for agriculture and grazing, hunting, poaching, mining, recreation, and tourism. Next, we have the desert, sometimes called the subtropical desert. Locations: Arizona, Egypt, Mexico, Saudi Arabia. Major plants, cacti and other succulents, creosote bush, plants that have short growth cycles. Things that we find there: the armadillo, the jackrabbit, the Gila monster, fennec fox. Places that we find it are the Sahara. And then the net primary productivity is limited by precipitation, very little precipitation. It has low in resistance and resilience. If something were to happen there, it doesn't bounce back. There's very low diversity and very low productivity. Human impact for the desert is use of ATVs, military exercises, drilling for oil, mining, and nuclear waste disposal. So to put it all together, biomes are large regions that share similar characteristics. The same biome can be found in multiple locations. Biomes tend to have species with similar adaptations, and these species have evolved special adaptations to live under these climate conditions.